We are going to be talking about one of my just absolute favourite chapters in The Lord of the Rings, and it's called The Scouring of the Shire. And honestly, I think it's probably one of the most underrated but also important moments in the whole story. It's the part where Tolkien basically says, hey, just because you beat the big bad guy doesn't mean all the problems just magically disappear. This chapter, it shows us that taking down Sauron was only half the battle. His influence, it runs way deeper than anyone thought. Like when you fix Wi-Fi but realise that half your house is still running on your neighbour's password from 2012, it's about coming home after the adventure only to find that your garden has been taken over by like a wannabe warlord and his gang of hooligans. The last time we saw Saruman, right, he was shuffling down the road looking like a washed-up rock star, like after a disastrous comeback tour. He's humiliated, he's broke, he's with all his grand evil plans in ruins, thanks to the fall of Isengard. But as he hinted to Frodo and the gang during their awakened little like face-to-face, the guy isn't done being a pain in the ass just yet, right? As our heroes get closer to the Shire, it becomes painfully obvious that things are way worse than Butterbird's gossip suggested. The place has gone full like hostile corporate takeover, and guess who's pulling the strings? Yes, Saruman. The old wizard has been meddling in the Shire from a distance. He's using none other than Lotho Sackville-Baggins, who he thought teaming up with Saruman like was a genius idea. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. It was kind of like thinking joining Cobra Kai is going to make you the good guy. With Lotho playing like puppet and a bunch of other locals either just bribed or bullied or like just too scared to say no, the Shire has basically turned into Isengard Jr, complete with bad vibes and a lot less gardening. Saruman clearly doesn't get hobbits, right? He thinks they're just little, like, pudgy gardeners who spend their days eating bacon sandwiches and napping like it's an Olympic sport. So, well, okay, that part's true, but he doesn't understand. And what Gandalf has been saying since day one is that hobbits have this quiet, stubborn strength buried under that second breakfast comfort food. It's like discovering that the guy from accounting who never says a word can suddenly bench press a car when someone touches his golf clubs, right? Saruman's takeover of the Shire worked mostly because he found a few sellouts like Lotho who thought siding with him was a good idea. It's basically the equivalent of thinking you can trust that one guy from the office fantasy football league who trades all his good players for future draft picks. We all know a Lotho, someone who would sell their soul for a little power or a nice bonus or maybe just a lifetime supply of pork pies. And this chapter, it gets more relevant with every passing year. Everywhere you look, there's a real world Lotho somewhere, some petty tyrant running a mini Isengard of their own, acting like a ruthless greed is a personality trait worth bragging about. Tolkien called this decades ago, long before we had people like, billionaires like Elon Musk trying to buy social media platforms just to troll people, right? I've always found the image of Saruman standing in front of Bag End to be a weirdly gut-punching. Right, I mean, this is Bag End, right? The cozy little hobbit hole where we've spent countless pages hanging out with Bilbo and Frodo, drinking tea, just pretending that second breakfast isn't just an excuse for hobbits to eat like Dwayne The Rock Johnson on cheat day, to then get seen it like trashed by Saruman. It's like coming home after vacation, finding that your neighbour's cousin threw a rave in your living room and the Goldfish is now wearing sunglasses and nothing quite feels the same anymore. It also says everything, I guess, about Saruman's character when you look at it, or the lack thereof, that he's wasting his insane wizarding talents on something that's petty. This is a guy who literally probably could have reshaped Middle-earth, and instead he's basically pulling like a just mess with the little guy revenge tour, like a Bond villain who's been demoted to bullying the farmer's market. From his bitter, twisted perspective, though, humiliating the hobbits must feel like some kind of sick payback for the role that they played in ruining his big evil dreams. Like, how dare they, right? But Saruman, he doesn't even get taken down by the hobbits. Though, let's be real, they'd happily have probably shanked him given the chance. It's his longtime sidekick, Gríma Wormtongue, who finally snaps. Years of being treated worse than, like, the opening act, right? The Nickelback concert finally boil over, and Gríma does what every sidekick dreams of, and he takes out the boss, cuts his throat clean as you like. Of course his victory lap is short-lived, because the hobbits just immediately go full Robin Hood and they turn him into a pincushion full of arrows, and that's it. So much for the great Saruman and his loyal lackey. Their big dream of ruling Middle-earth together ends with not with some epic battle, but with a messy breakup and an awkward crime of passion in the front yard of a hobbit house, nonetheless. If that's not a warning about toxic workplaces, then well, I don't know what is. It's tough not to feel like at least a little sorry for Saruman at this point. I mean, the guy, he used to roll with the Valar, basically the Middle-earth equivalent of hanging out with the A-list Hollywood elite. He's seen all the beauty and the power that the world has to offer, and now he's reduced to just being a bitter, small-time tyrant running a knockoff version of Isengard out of the Shire. That's not just a fall from grace. That's like going from being the headliner at Madison Square Garden to playing cover songs at a questionable dive bar on karaoke night. Out of all the villains in this series, Saruman's fall feels the steepest, and I think that's saying something when you're competing with a flaming eyeball in a giant tower. What makes it tragic is that he didn't have to let it go this way. He had so many chances to pull a Darth Vader redemption moment, but his pride just wouldn't let him. He just couldn't bring himself to take the good guy road, because somewhere deep down he'd rather rule a trash heap than humble himself. And honestly, his humiliation is almost worse than Sauron's. Sure, Sauron got vaporized along with the ring, but Saruman went from I'm the big boss of Orthanc to I'm going to bully hobbits in a vegetable patch, and even his last attempt at sticking it to Frodo fails, blocked by mithril armour and, ironically, Frodo's mercy. Talk about going out just sad and depressed, really. But Saruman's defeat doesn't even end with his death. No, he has like one last dramatic ghost exit, right? When Gríma finally snaps and slices his throat, Saruman's spirit tries to float off toward the west, probably hoping for a last-minute VIP pass to the afterlife. But instead, the wind blows him away like a used grocery bag stuck in a parking lot, one of those depressing scenes in a movie, right? Just like Sauron, redemption is off the table for him, and all that's left for his spirit is to just wander aimlessly like the world's grumpiest ghost, doomed to haunt the very land he tried to control. And there's something just extra tragic about Gríma Wormtongue too. The poor guy, he finally snaps, he takes out his awful boss and doesn't even get 5 seconds to enjoy his new freedom before he's turned into a pincushion by hobbit arrows. I get it, the hobbits, they've been pushed around for ages, and by this point they're basically Clint Eastwood in The Unforgiven, right? Ready to dish out justice. Still, a part of me kind of hoped that he might have made it out alive. I mean, he was probably a halfway decent dude once before Saruman worked his snake oil salesman routine onto him and turned him into Middle-earth's creepiest sidekick. But, at least in the end, the hobbits, they win the day. Frodo and the gang, they reclaim their home through sheer stubbornness. And I kind of don't mess with this energy. You usually only see that from, like, dads at the airport. It's a victory, but not the kind you celebrate with like fireworks and ale. The scars Saruman left behind are everywhere, and it's going to take a ton of work and probably a few community barbecues to kind of get the Shire looking like itself again. And let's be honest, it's not like Lotho was the only clown causing trouble. There were plenty of hobbits willing to play ball with the bad guys when it suited them. And it turns out even in the peaceful Shire, there are a few bad apples, though in this case they're less rotten fruit and more like, oh, that one guy who hoards all the beer at the party and nobody knows about it. It's a reminder that healing isn't just about kicking out the villains. It's about kind of rebuilding trust, I suppose, and scrubbing off the stink they left behind. And that kind of summarizes the Scouring of the Shire. It's proof that you don't have to be a sword-swinging hero or a fireball-throwing wizard to stand up to the jerks of the world. Sometimes all it takes is a few pint-sized hobbits with the determination of Bruce Willis in Die Hard and the teamwork of the 1980s A-Team, just minus the van, obviously. What I love, though, about this chapter, and it's why I've made this video, is that it's not about epic armies or shiny magic rings. It's about coming home and realising that someone's trashed your garden gnomes and saying, not today, buddy. It's like the ultimate power move in fantasy, right? Clean up the neighbourhood, kick out the overlord, and just remind everyone that the quiet guy in the corner looking at you, Samwise, is actually the toughest guy in the room. So the next time, if we take what I take from this chapter every time is the next time, like a Saruman or a Lotho in the real world, the next time they come at you, just channel your inner hobbit. Forget Aragorn, forget Gandalf, forget Legolas. Samwise it all the way. Take a deep breath. Plant your feet and get ready to roll initiative. And just remember that no matter how messy things get, you can always rebuild. I think that's the moral message that I love about it. You can rebuild, you can repaint, and take your Shire back, preferably with a cold beer in one hand and some classic 80s rock blasting in the background. But either way, the community spirit, the essence of it, and the moral philosophy of this chapter is really profound, and it's one of the reasons why it makes it up there in my top chapters, and maybe not so much others, but other people's. I mean, anyway, I digress. I'm going to wrap it up there. So I'm going to implore you one time to do all those things you need to do to please support my tiny channel, and I hope to see you in the next video.